Is that your music, or is that the airport?
It's the airport, man. What the hell do you think I'm playing music like that? Airport, bro.
Hey. Back with another episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. I am Josue Pavon. He is, of course, Cedric Maxwell. About to enjoy the weekend. He's pulling up from the airport right now, from Logan Airport, but we're squeezing this episode in before he goes, Max. Right? I mean, we got a lot to talk about. You got Jayson Tatum headed to the Olympics. You got Celtics fans going crazy because of that picture that is floating around of him and Bradley Beal. That's got all the fans excited. But first things first, let's talk about the NBA Finals. Because Devin Booker, man, this guy, listen, 31 points is the game high, but he also dropped 7 3-pointers in that game. Went to work in that second half, and of course, so did Miles Bridges, man. But yeah, 27 points, 3 3-pointers. Man, he came up big for the Suns team. But let me ask you this, Max. Are the Milwaukee Bucks in trouble?
They're in trouble. I think until they find a way that, especially when you think about guarding Chris Paul. They're getting ISO'd in a one-on-one situation, and Chris Paul, they have not had an answer. He's taken advantage of every big, got where he wanted to go, been a facilitator, setting the table. So, and every time everybody said Milwaukee was dead, we've seen that throughout this playoffs. Milwaukee has risen from the dead. So I wouldn't expect anything else.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you look at game 2, and a lot of people are going to look at the box score and think about Chris Middleton and say, man, they could have really used him in game 2. But he's had one heck of a postseason. Right. I mean, he's really been consistent for those guys. It wasn't so hot in game 2. What was it, 11 points? Not too hot from the floor. 5 of 16 rather from the floor. But these guys have other players that can step up here, right? I mean, you look at the Phoenix Suns, and on any given night, whether it's Jay Crowder, whether it's Miles Bridges, whether it's Campaign, like these guys have the other guys, right? The so-called other guys that aren't afraid to step up. Like, I think that's what Milwaukee's missing in the series for sure.
Well, we'll use one of Sean Grandy words, my broadcast partner. He'll say the ancillary players have stepped up and made a difference.
Right.
And we talk about it. We need to look back, even to the point. Let's go back maybe 4 or 5 years ago and remember when Jay Crowder's got his revenge. Everybody, he screamed about Gordon Hayward coming here and the fans cheering for him. He said, you've already got the player. You've already got the player. And you look back on that time, Jay Crowder has been a better player. And forget about the injuries. He's been a better player and a better fit right now for these teams going to the finals than Gordon Hayward has been. So
no question.
To me, nobody wants to talk about it, but you have to give Jay Crowder props. He was with Miami. He leaves Miami, and Miami goes downhill. He leaves all these places, and look again, Miami in the finals, Phoenix in the finals. So, and look what he did to LeBron when he played against LeBron, was doing the cha-cha dancing, on LeBron. So you have to be so happy for him. But again, he's kind of got his revenge about people who wanted him to leave from Boston.
He's got revenge of a couple cats, right? He's got a few bodies out there. Just look at the Miami Heat, for instance, right? 1 year ago, they lowballed him at the free agency table. Now, granted, they had their eyes on Giannis Antetokounmpo, just like a lot of people 1 year ago. They thought that he was on the move, that he was going to leave Milwaukee. What happens? He doesn't leave Milwaukee. They're not able to sign him. Jay Crowder's like, wait, you guys are going to lowball me? I'm going to take this 4-year deal with the Phoenix Suns. Everyone is telling Jay, are you crazy? These guys haven't made the playoffs in 10 years. Listen, I had a conversation with these guys. I'm sold on it. I'm heading over there to fix things and turn things around. 1 year later, he's back in the NBA Finals, 2 wins away from a title, man. I always say this, Max. The NBA is unpredictable, okay? It's the greatest TV show. Whether you want to say for drama, for pure talent, obviously. Like, this stuff is unpredictable. Year after year, it happens, man.
It really does. I think that you never can define a season or a player. And considering the fact that guys have gotten hurt, what would happen if Giannis had been in the position that Giannis all of a sudden couldn't come back from that hyperextended knee? Milwaukee was really done. He comes back from the hyperextended knee, has played well, but other guys have not stepped up. And one guy I'm really disappointed in how he's played so far is Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, who really can shoot the lights out of the basketball, has been so ineffective during this playoff time. and then you put him on guarding Chris Paul. It's been really a mismatch. Well, I think if you watch the Suns, how they move the basketball, it is zipping around. And a lot of times Milwaukee tries to come out and guard one guy and switch back, but they're moving that ball so fast that Milwaukee's defense cannot adjust fast enough to get into a rhythm where they have a hat on a hat, a man on a man. So they have to find a better way, and maybe they go smaller. As much as I think that, Brook Lopez has played well for them, they might have to go smaller with their lineup to counter what Phoenix has been doing.
Yeah, definitely. Something to that effect for sure. All right, let's talk about Tatum, because that's what everyone's excited about. This match made in heaven, in basketball heaven, if you will. I mean, you got to give it to him, man. Two guys from St. Louis playing on the same U.S. team. I mean, you don't see that so often, which of course they're celebrating. This is one heck of a moment for those two. But in terms of someone like Bradley Beal seriously considering going to Boston, like, is that a realistic thing? For, when you think about it, I mean, clearly the Celtics, they could pave the way if they want to, right? Whether it's continuing to save money and not re-sign guys, but if that's a target for next summer, Max, let me ask you this: is it wise for the Celtics to sort of put all their eggs into this basket, so to speak, or is there a way for Brad Stevens to sort of do a little bit of both, right? Stay competitive, and of course, try to keep that cap as minimal as possible, or try to save as much money.
Well, I think he's done that so far. You think about Kemba moving that contract on, getting Al's contract back. One washes out the other, but there was another year on Kemba's contract. So you've already saved money in that position. Who do you really want? And people have been asking me over, well, who do you think is recruiting better? Do you think with Beal recruiting Tatum or Tatum recruiting Beal? Well, who has the better platform? The better platform will be in Boston. So if Tatum was recruiting Beal to come here, I think it would go that way instead of Beal recruiting Tatum going to DC.
Right, and that would obviously, that could happen next summer. So that's the big part in this. But like, I think I hear what you're saying, and all that makes sense. But I'm always thinking Russell Westbrook. He still has that partner out there in Washington. If they somehow get a couple of guys in there, or they can turn things around. Mm-hmm. I mean, whether turn things around means a second round exit in the playoffs, or whether that means not making the playoffs at all. Like that's a huge difference. And I'm not quite sure if Bradley Beal is somebody that's who can just walk away so easily, But again, this is his buddy. This is Jayson Tatum. This is a winning situation in Boston. It'll be interesting.
Come on.
It's time, right?
Get with me. What are we talking about here? Dame time.
Oh man, see, that's another one too. But it's too soon for
Dame
that.
Time.
It's too soon for that.
Never too soon for that. Why is it too soon?
Because you're trying to trade Jaylen Brown next month. That's why it's too soon, Max.
Look, you have to go. I mean, and I love, and I make sure this is on my podcast. Everybody understands that I love Jaylen Brown. I think he is an exceptional player. But again, I am looking for the contrast between Beal. I'm looking at the contrast between Brown and Tatum. And for me, there's not a lot of contrast. So in order to do that effectively, you might have to roll the dice and move somebody that you wanted to keep. I saw Jaylen Brown. I think he was on last night on some show shooting threes and for his charity, some charity that he had. Right. He looked good, but it's, again, you keep thinking about how guys are movable, and, they're pieces, they're chess pieces, and they're moved around the board. And we'll see if Brad Stevens, he's already done one thing, because he loved Kemba. He respected Kemba, but at the same time, he saw an opportunity to move Kemba on. So it doesn't seem like Brad is the friendly type when it comes to making a deal, and we'll see if he wants to go out and strike again.
Is that a championship team? Like, looking ahead here, if hypothetically, if those three get together, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, Bradley Beal, is that a foregone conclusion that core can win a championship?
What do you see? What you see in there is a bunch of offense. Have you said anything defensively yet? I don't think you said anything about any one of those guys who are going to kill you defensively. And at the end of the day, you have to have those people who are going to step up defensively. Al Horford brings in a certain amount of defense and offense at the same time. That's what the Celtics have to get, somebody who is defensively minded and offensively who is just a juggernaut. Now, when I say that, Dame Lillard is not necessarily a good juggernaut on the defensive end, but he stretches the floor so far, for you as an offensive player where he's shooting from, that he is going to help out Tatum in the ISO situation.
I love it, Max. Sounds great to me, but I don't know. I'm not quite ready to give up on this core yet. At least these two, the Tatum and Brown. But I hear you out. That's a tempting.
Tell me.
It's tempting to put those two together, not put those two together.
Well, we keep talking about it, and I hear the new coach, saying, hey, I got two pillars, two guys who I can go to. But at the same time, I'll ask you, you tell me the contrast between those two players that we're talking about, Brown and Tatum. What is the contrast?
One plays a little more.
I tell you what, for you, one is dark skinned and one is light skinned. One's dark skinned and one's light skinned.
You would put it that way.
Yeah, I can say that, okay? We can say that's on my podcast.
There's one of many things. Oh, a couple of things I should say.
What?
Yeah, you're right.
Like what?
That's a good point.
What?
There's not a lot of contrast, but that's why I think they need that third guy, to give them that contrast in Bradley.
But that's why I think that you have to create that contrast, even if you're going out moving pieces. And Brown and Tatum are very much duplicate players. They're great players. But at the same time, you tell me one thing that one does that's different from the other. Okay, this thing must be all
Harvard.
You have
address Harvard University.
Okay. Yeah,
I don't know. Okay. Outspoken politically. I'm with you, man.
That's gonna do me some good, Eddie Kane, somebody who's speaking out politically.
I'm just trying to add to this. I want to add to these two, but no, that's a really good point because I guess the reason why I asked you the whole championship question is when Pearson, Garnett, and Ray Allen got together, it was no question those guys can win a championship. I don't know if I feel that same way about these three, or even when Bosh, Wade and LeBron got together, people knew they're going to win at least one championship. I don't know if I really like those three's chances though. And again,
the guys you just named them. You named Kevin Garnett, one of the greatest defenders that this league has seen in a long time. Defense ran through him.
That's what I was thinking about contrast. You get that defender.
LeBron James is, regardless of what people think he's a great offensive player, but he's a great defender. He runs the passing lanes. He chases down blocks. He rebounds the basketball. You give me the contrast of something that you say that Tatum and Brown look at and collectively that they do that is a lot different. And there's not a lot of things. I mean, they're both great scorers, and I respect them tremendously. But at the same time, this is me talking that I want something that's a contrast. I mean, there's like a contrast between Larry Bird and Cedric Maxwell. They're like Larry Bird and Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish. These were all contrasting players and could do different things, but it made so that, there wasn't a lot of deficiencies out there. What you have right now is you have deficiencies on the offensive end, not a lot, but defensively with those two guys on the floor. Now, Brown did take the tougher defensive job almost every game, but, how long can that last?
Right. Well, this is the big season for these two. And I feel like, it's sound like a broken record when you look at a year ago. We're saying the same exact thing, but it's a little different this time, right? Given what happened last season, you got a new coach in here. You got someone that these two have co-signed and they believe in. Well, let's see if they can get these two to figure it out. Because what I mean by figure it out, we know how good they are. We know they're top level talents and that they continue to get better year after year. But when are they going to make their teammates better? That's what we're waiting for. That's when we start talking about a championship team and not the 500 team that we just finished watching.
I mean, that's a good point you made about the new coach. But what do we really know about it? What do we really know? I mean, it's just like when you have that girlfriend that you got, and all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, man, this is really keeper. And then all of a sudden, something happened. You're going, whoa, wait a minute.
I didn't even know this girl.
Hold up. Yeah. Hold up. I didn't know that about this person. Now, I think Brad has done his homework. I think he's going to be a legitimate coach. But he's never sat in that front seat. And that's something which changes a lot of coaches. You asked Jimmy, who was it that was under KC Jones at the time? Jimmy Rogers. Jimmy Rogers moving from one seat to the other seat, it changed him as a coach. And it did not work out well for him.
Yeah. Well, you had a conversation with Ime. I mean, we haven't spoken since then, or we haven't had an episode since then. So, why don't you tell us about what was that like? What was it like meeting the new head coach of the Boston Celtics?
Well, he was nice. I mean, it wasn't. Again, he was soft spoken. He said some things to me. He said some things which are interesting. When he said, "Hey, he hopes, he knows that these guys that he's going to coach them hard, and I'm gonna coach the hell out of them." So that means all of a sudden he's going to challenge them. And that is something, I love to hear. Other than that, I met his fiance, Nia Long, and she was nice and pretty and all those good things.
Tell me Ime brought it up and you didn't say, so where's your fiance at? Where's she at? You didn't drop that line, did you?
I did not. Ime grabbed my hand. He grabbed my hand and said, "Let me introduce you to my wife."
You said bet.
And
Word.
And I said, I did like you. I said, bet. Let's do and let me do like you were saying. Let me beat your sweat. Let's do this. Okay, let's do this. And you walk over. Walk over. That's what's up. That's what's good. And I walked over and met her and I told her, I said, Nia, I said, I've been a huge fan. I said, your movie you did should be a requirement for all young Black couples to watch. And I
Which
said,
one?
and I
Love
don't mean Friday. I don't mean the movie Friday. I mean Love Jones.
Yeah,
it was a very sophisticated, very polished, very interesting. Had so many twists and turns in their plots, and it wasn't about cursing and hollering. It was just a very well written, educated, and love story, which was really nice to see. And
I'm glad you're saying that, Matt. Tell the people, because Netflix just picked it up, I believe, about a month ago, so it's on Netflix right now.
Well, if you want to see something which is a really good movie that'll have you like, wow, that's really cool, because that was when the spoken word was out. And it was people rhyming different stuff. And the main character was Lorenz Tate. His name was Darius Lovehall in the movie. And he was a writer, a photographer, and he met Nia Long out at a speaking jazz session.
Club or jazz club, yeah.
And he walked up on the stage, and that first 5 minutes is a monster. He put down some lyrics and some rhymes that were unbelievable. And it was just so cool to see that movie. So I did talk to her about that. She was like, "What, really?" And I started telling her different things about the movie. She said, "Oh man, you really are a fan," to the point that finally she wanted to take a picture of me and Ime together, and we did that. And then I asked her, I said, "Can I take a picture with her?" And I wanted somebody to take it. And she's like, "No, let's do a selfie." And she held the camera, which was cool, but she was looking at me, and everybody I know was like, "Why is she smiling at you like that?" I was like, "We don't want no problems. We don't want no problems." Okay?
Yo, guys, go to if you haven't seen it already, head to Max's Twitter. IG, it's on there. Not for nothing, Max. I can see why people are asking and why she holding you like that, because y'all straight up look like y'all been kicking it for hours, man. Look like a paparazzi. Let's get this couple in the corner shot. That's what it looked like. Like, all right, you got this real quick. Like, that's it. It was a nice pic. It came out nice.
Yeah, it was. And meeting her, that was so cool. And like I said, we just talked about the movie and what I actually wrote, I think, on my page was, I said, welcoming the new first lady to Boston.
The first lady,
I like that. And then somebody texted me later on and said, "Oh man, you got a new girlfriend?" I'm like, no, Nia Long. She's the coach's girlfriend. Coach's fiance, not mine. I have nothing to do with that.
That's what's up,
I mean,
man. No, it's a great
then the other thing that happened is people continue to question, Brad Stevens. That was the next thing. Well, do you feel it was fair for the Celtics to go out and get Brad? I said, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, two things happened. One, it was economics because you still had to pay Brad. But then when Danny left, it gave them an opportunity to move Brad into another position, which he could feel. And at the same time, they had a commitment to pay him. So in that, and then the biggest thing for me was the fact that Brad Stevens is the perfect candidate to go out and purchase the groceries here because nobody knows the ins and outs, the weaknesses, the strengths of this team, the way Brad Stevens is going to know them on a daily basis as he's seen this team over the last 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it's been. And so he will know, what he really needs and what he needs for the next coach to be successful.
Definitely. And it's relevant, it's significant, especially with this core, because this core, it's not like they've been playing together for a couple of years now. It's a handful of years and they've been through a lot. So I think this is a very significant change for him. And of course, like you said, that's the guy I want buying all the groceries. That's the guy I trust right now more than anybody. So yeah.
But let me ask you this then, since we're asking questions. So what do you want to do with Daniel Fourier? What do you want to do with him?
With
who?
Who?
Do you want to do with Fourier? Fourier.
Fourier?
Fourier.
Oh man. If it's not a short-term deal, he's got to go. I think, like I talked about earlier, I think it's important for him to try to keep the money off the books as much as possible, in case someone like Bradley Beal is a realistic target. And if you have Evan Fournier on your books, that's not going to work for you. Now, if you can convince him to a short-term deal, a 2-year deal with that option on the second year, I mean, I'm for it. Because I think you're going to need someone like that next to Tatum and Brown, who's going to have a whole lot of open catch and shoot opportunities.
But if you're him, you're probably looking for a long-term deal.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's probably not. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm
this
him,
is his chance to get paid.
I'm not looking for a 1 and 2 year deal, but he's already at $17 million already. So if you're going to sign him, it has to be 20 plus. Are you willing to commit 20 plus for the next 4? It has to be like a 4-year deal, 80 million or something like that. So there's some questions that Brad has to answer immediately with his team.
Yeah, I mean, if his heart is really, really here, which I'm not quite sure it is, it's so difficult to gauge that because it's such a short stay. Philadelphia did something that not a lot of teams would do, or not a lot of players would agree with, but JJ Redick did. I mean, JJ Redick accepted I believe it was a $20 million, 1 year, $20 million deal, and then took a huge pay cut the following year, or at least his contract dipped. But again, I don't know if Evan Fournier is in that sort of head, in his head, is he's in the space of saying, give me pay no matter where I'm going, or do I want to, be in a situation where I can produce, get a payday for 1 year, and then I can showcase myself, and get paid more after that. Again, it depends. If Fournier really wants to compete, or if he really wants to be in a situation where he knows he's going to be playing, basketball late in May, next year. So, but that's my thing.
I agree.
With Fournier, I would love to see him back.
Those are questions that have to be answered. And now, after that, how are you going to make your bench stronger? That is going to be the next thing for Brad, because after you think Carson Edwards, what happened there? Would you say, I'm gonna let you judge the bench and you'll give me this? Carson Edwards.
Good luck, man. Good luck with everything in your future endeavors. I mean,
Taco.
I want to see him back. G League. I don't know if I see him on the roster though.
That's not the thing. I'm talking about people on the roster, man. People gonna help you.
I'll keep it Taco. Keep it Taco. I know they got a lot of bigs right there, and they got a lot of bodies in that spot, but a couple of injuries can change things drastically. So I'm keeping Taco.
Okay. All right. I like Taco as a person, and I think he is a great G League player. In the new NBA, he doesn't fit. Doesn't fit in the new NBA. So I mean that's just, and it's painful to say, but almost every 7-footer I know right now if you're not Anthony Davis, your game is taking kind of a hit. If you're not able to stretch the floor and knock down jump shots, look, as good as Brook Lopez is right now, he's a liability on the defensive end because he can't get out and contain people like Chris Paul.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, I never see Taco in that position.
Yeah. It's tough because his offensive skill set is just so raw, and you see him making little steps, but you don't see it to a level where you're like, he's an everyday player. You know, I'm not quite sure he's there yet.
Well, GM, you have to do better than, you know, wanting somebody in the G League. You have to cut the cord. And
all right, so you cut the cord on Draymond?
I like Draymond, but I think that in this league right now, he's too small. And I think he has some amazing skills, but how does that equate? And when we've seen him in situations where he's played, he hasn't produced well enough. Now, has he had the opportunity? There have been some opportunities, but still you have to produce at a very high level, and that has not happened for him. Yeah. So I think that your bench, you know, of the guys that I would think, you know, Semi Ojeleye is the one guy I think that really helps you because there are times when he can knock down shots. But one thing, you know, he can defend the basketball. So you can put him in the game in situations that he can help you and not hurt you.
I mean, a couple of years ago, he got a lot of burn just for containing Giannis Antetokounmpo, you know? So that was his role. You know, I just always want him to flourish into a 3-and-D, and it just wasn't consistent, you know?
No, I don't think that you're looking for him. He's found a niche where he can knock down shots from either corner. He does that. But he doesn't consistently put the ball on the floor, and then he doesn't make those decisions once he puts the ball on the floor on the offensive end. He's going to help you.
I'm looking for Grant to see if he can take a step here. What do you think about Grant?
Grant has the mental capacity to be a very solid player in this league, and we've seen him do that. I think last year for him, and being perfectly honest, was a step back. He didn't step forward, but he stepped back. For a while, he was a consistent shooter in the bubble, knocking down shots and making smart plays. But this year, he struggled many times on the defensive end and the offensive end. I mean, he knows the place upside down. His free throw shooting was not great. So there's some things he has to do to improve his lot when you think about being on this team and helping you out.
All right, Mac, before we wrap things up here, where you headed? Where you off to, man? Let the people know. I know everyone's dying to know.
Right now, I'm actually in the Charlotte airport. I'm trying to get back to Boston. My flight has been delayed from 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I was supposed to be on the plane already to 10 o'clock at night. And I have a flight tomorrow at 11:45 going to Aruba. So if I don't
check you out, you on vacation?
If I don't get this flight tonight, I'm going to be screwed. And you know, and I'm hoping right now for me, I'm hoping that you know that I still have the internet and we can hit this off from Aruba from the beach.
Yeah, that would be dope. That'd be lit. So let me ask you this though: did you tell them how many people at that airport you tell about your Aruba extension, your trip?
No, but I didn't tell anybody. I mean, I'm just hoping that I get on this flight. You know,
I said you would have dropped that to the lady, you know, at the desk. Be like, listen,
I did.
Sure, it's gonna take off.
I did, but she was a sister, and she's like, look. And I said, I know you ain't got nothing to do with it. She said, sir, you are so right. Unless you want me to go get my brother, who's an auto mechanic, to come up here and fix the plane. I'm like, no, we don't want that. So I'm just, you know, I'm sitting here now, just hoping that I get the flight coming into Boston tomorrow and tonight, sometimes probably after 12, and I'll be able to get up in the morning and hop on that plane and fly 4.5 hours and go into Aruba.
Oh man, that sounds beautiful. That sounds amazing. Well, next week, if you were on a beach somewhere doing a brand new episode, we'll know you made it in time, right? So I think it's a good chance to make.
We will do the next episode, and I promise that I have one of my lovely drinks beside me. It's gonna be a pina colada or Miami Vice or swirl or sizzle or whatever it might be.
With a fucking umbrella in that thing.
I should be out on the beach someplace.
That's what's up. That's gonna wrap up this episode of the Cedric Maxwell podcast. You already know, rate, subscribe if you're not already. iTunes, Stitcher, you name it. We're on every single platform for podcasting, man. We appreciate you guys always checking in, and we'll see you guys next week. I am Josue Pavon. He is Cedric Maxwell. See you guys later.